Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. So this all started about 3 years ago. My cousin, who lives in Arizona, always had a desire to have professional photos taken. She thought it'd be nice to have something for her husband to look at from when she was in her prime as they aged together. However, my cousin had no desire to have those photos publicly published. After a few years of chewing on this idea, she decided she was going to do it. She went out looking for a photographer. She had a tight budget and ended up going with this one man who quoted her $300 for a 1-hour photo shoot. However, she asked him if he had any agreement or something that would keep those photos confidential. He said he did not. She asked him if she wrote up an agreement basically stating the photos he takes of her cannot be saved on any of his devices, and the SD card needs to be given to her, and that she should be the only person with a copy of the photos, and if he'd agree to that. His only request was that she buy the SD card herself. So she agreed. He sent her what kind of SD card she should buy, and she bought it. She also wrote up an agreement in which the following was agreed upon and signed. Photo shoot was to last 1 hour. He would be paid $300. He would edit 6 pictures of her choosing, airbrushing, making her look better, etc. He would also print those 6 photos. She would supply the SD card. He would also delete any photos of her from any device he has. He is not allowed to share those photos with anyone for any reason, and those photos belong to her only. Agreement was signed, photo shoot happened, photos were edited, and she got her SD card. All things well and good. My cousin figured that was that. Obviously, we all know this isn't the end, but just the start, otherwise I wouldn't be posting here. About 6 months after the photo shoot, the photographer contacts her and says he has copies of her photos and knows a website that he can sell them to for $500. And if she doesn't want that, she needs to pay him $500. My cousin calls me and asks me what I think she should do, as I'm pretty good at handling dynamic situations. So I tell my cousin to do this. Don't pay him. If you pay him once, there's nothing stopping him from trying to get you to pay again. Remind him that you had a signed agreement in which he agreed the photos he took of her, he would not save a copy, and he would never publish anywhere. Remind him if he publishes your photos, you will post him on blast throughout the social media world. She said thanks. I thought this was the end of that story. But about 6 months later, I'm on Reddit and bam, I'm staring at my cousin. I knew she was my cousin, 'cause you could see the tattoo of her son's name and birthday. Then it dawned on me. The photographer didn't listen to her, and must have published her photos anyway. I call my cousin and tell her how I found her photos. I sent her the links. I went to the local Facebook groups, and left nasty reviews for him. My cousin didn't want her name out there saying photos of her existed so people could go out and find them. I then Googled how to DMCA and sent in DMCA notices to the sites I could find that were hosting her photos. I also did a reverse image search and DMCA those as well. I taught my cousin how to do this herself. For your information, DMCA works, and none of the sites even argued with us. At this point, someone PMs me, an attorney's phone number. So I did. I explained the story to the attorney. The attorney then explained to me because I wasn't the victim, he couldn't really do anything until the victim contacted him herself. So I went to my cousin, told her about this attorney and how she should go speak to the attorney. Now my cousin has a flaw in her personality. She's very quick to forgive. I tried my best to persuade her, but she said she felt the nasty reviews we had left and spreading the news was enough. Another 6 months pass, and one day my cousin calls me again and says, "You wouldn't believe which son of a witch emailed me." Being the quick thinker I am, I said, "The photographer, right?" She said, "Yup." And I said, "So how much money is he asking for now?" She said he's asking for $10,000 to delete her photos, and as compensation for the damages we caused to his business. Apparently people don't want to hire a photographer who publishes people's photographs that they paid him to take without their permission. I told it was time to call the attorney. She agreed. Let's skip ahead a year. Apparently said photographer had plenty of money to fight a legal battle. The long end of the story is that my cousin got him convicted for blackmail plus successfully sued him and got a civil judgment for a hefty sum of money. He's currently serving 3 years in an Arizona state prison. Granted, after she got her civil judgment, he had basically sold everything he had trying to stay out of jail, so it's unlikely she will ever be able to collect, but basically his future earnings now belong to her, as I understand it. It was a typical weekend, and my mom and her friend decided to hit the shops as usual. They left me and my buddy to chill at the mall lounge while they did their thing. We were just hanging out playing games on our phones when everything went sideways. We were sitting on a bench outside the lounge when this lady, let's call her the entitled mother, Karen, came up to us with her kid who was around 10 years old. Karen, excuse me, darling, could you please get off this bench so that my daughter can rest here? We're really tired. I didn't really mind, so we got up and headed inside to the lounge area. We showed our ids to get in, you needed them to relax there, and settled into some comfy chairs. My friend and I were busy with our game, totally minding our own business, when Karen stormed into the lounge like she owned the place. Karen, I'm a friend of Op. You should let me and my daughter in. One of the lounge staff asked her if she knew me, and of course she didn't. I shook my head, and they politely asked her to leave. I needed to use the restroom, and since there wasn't one in the lounge, I headed outside. That's when I bumped into her kid, Anne. Hey, can I play on your phone? Mommy doesn't let me play on hers. Me. I'm sorry, but I can't let you use my phone. Anne, pretty please. I kept refusing, but she wouldn't give up. I ignored her and went back inside the lounge after finishing my business. Not long after, Karen barged into the lounge again. Anne, that's the boy, Mommy. Karen, why aren't you letting my daughter play on your phone? Me, it's my phone and I don't want to give it to her. Karen, you've played enough. Go play on your bratty friend's phone instead. Me, no way, and don't call my friend bratty. I don't even know you. Karen, I don't care. Give me the phone right now or I'll call the police. Me, go ahead and call them. I'm not giving you my phone. She actually started calling the police right there, making a huge scene. At first I was worried, but then I realized I hadn't done anything wrong. Meanwhile, her daughter sneakily dropped a gold chain onto my lap from her mom's purse. And, Mommy, he stole your gold chain. Karen, what? How dare you? Now I'm calling security too. Security, he stole my necklace. Help, he's harassing my daughter. Security came rushing over, and everyone in the lounge was staring at us. My friend and I were super embarrassed, standing there feeling accused of something we didn't do. Security, is this true? Did you try to steal this woman's necklace? Nice friend. No way, we didn't do anything wrong. We were just sitting here when this lady came in and started yelling at OP for his phone. Me. Yeah, you can check the cameras if you want. The look on Karen's face was priceless. She tried to leave, but the security guards stopped her. They reviewed the footage and quickly realized she was making it all up. They escorted Karen and her daughter out of the mall. We never saw them again after that day. It was definitely a crazy experience, but I learned that some people will go to ridiculous lengths to get what they want. Thankfully, security had our backs and justice was served. The Karen in my story is my neighbor from hell. She's got a knack for making even the sunniest days feel like a storm's brewing. She'd leave her trash cans right in front of my yard, like they're on some sort of playdate, and she'd walk her yappy dog late at night, ensuring that no one on our street got a decent night's sleep. Oh, and her car, it's like her prized possession. She'd park it half on the sidewalk, half on my lawn, and I'd find myself wondering if I had a new driveway for ants. But the pièce de résistance was her habit of blocking my driveway, you know, as if it's her personal parking spot. Now, I'm a patient guy, but even a saint would lose their cool eventually. So, I politely asked her to stop. Big mistake. Excuse me, Karen, could you please not park your car in front of my driveway? It's making it hard for me to get in and out. Cue the eruption. She'd puff up like a pufferfish and start yelling about how she pays her taxes and can park wherever she wants. It's like dealing with a toddler who just discovered the word no one fine day. I'd had enough. My patience was thinner than a strand of spaghetti, and I decided to call a towing service to get her car out of my driveway. I mean, enough is enough, right? The tow truck came, did its thing, and her car was gone. Little did I know that I had just lit the fuse on the fireworks of fury. I was chilling at home when I heard it, the screeching of tires, like a banshee on steroids. I rushed to the window just in time to see Karen's car, or rather, her husband's car, plow into the side of my house. I wish I could say I was shocked, but honestly, I was more amazed that she managed to hit the house and not a tree. My jaw was on the floor, but before I could process what had just happened, Karen got out of the car, and she stormed up to my front door like a hurricane with legs. "What did you do?" she screeched. Spit flying in all directions. I was dumbfounded. "Me? I didn't do anything. You crashed into my house." "Oh, but she was on a mission. This is payback for towing my car, you little weasel." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the sheer audacity of it all. But then I noticed something in her hand, a baseball bat, and suddenly, the laughter died in my throat. Instinct took over, and I bolted to my room, heart racing like it was in a marathon. I opened my drawer and pulled out a Glock. Yeah, I had one for safety reasons, but I'd never thought I'd actually need it against Karen. Back downstairs, I positioned myself at the window, gun in hand. Call me crazy, but I wasn't planning on shooting her. Just scare her off. I aimed at her car, knowing that taking a shot at her would just make things worse. Bam, 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 shots rang out, missing her car by a mile. I was a terrible shot, but maybe that was a good thing. The noise was enough to send her scurrying back to her car like a cockroach exposed to light. But guess who arrived on the scene just as Karen was trying to speed away? Yep, the police. "Hands where we can see them," one of the officers yelled at Karen. Guns drawn, they had her surrounded faster than a kid on a piñata. After what felt like an eternity of interrogations and explanations, they figured out the whole story. Karen was cuffed and stuffed into the back of a police car, looking angrier than ever. Turns out Karen had quite the rap sheet. It wasn't just about her feud with me. It seemed she had a knack for stirring up trouble wherever she went. From heated altercations with store employees over expired coupons to run-ins with other neighbors that made mine look like a picnic, her track record was impressive in all the wrong ways. Once the police dug a little deeper, they discovered that she had outstanding warrants for other unrelated incidents. It was like the universe was finally catching up with her. The incident with my house was the straw that broke the camel's back, and the legal system was ready to take her down. Her court date arrived, and let me tell you, it was amazing. News outlets caught wind of the story. The Karen Chronicles, from blocked driveways to blocked freedom, and people from all over were tuning in to see the show. If only I had sold tickets, I might have made a fortune. The courtroom was packed, and even the judge seemed like they were itching to put an end to Karen's antics. Witness after witness took the stand, sharing tales of her tantrums, entitled outbursts, and general disregard for the laws of common courtesy. It was like a highlight reel of all the reasons she had earned the title of Karen. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. Karen stood before the judge, who seemed like they had reached their limit of patience. The evidence was stacked against her, and her lawyer's attempts to downplay her behavior were about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. The judge delivered their verdict with a stern tone that resonated through the courtroom. Guilty. Karen was found guilty on multiple charges, including reckless driving, property damage, and making threats. The sentence was a couple of years in prison, combination of fines, anger management classes, which I can only imagine she needed desperately, and probation. Nowadays, Karen's not so much the talk of the town. She's definitely toned down her antics, probably because the consequences of her actions finally caught up with her. Our neighborhood is more peaceful than ever, and I've even had the chance to bond with other neighbors over our shared experiences of dealing with her. It's like we formed a support group for survivors of Karen encounters. So there you have it. Karen's reign of entitlement and chaos came to an end, and the world is a little bit saner because of it. It's a reminder that sometimes patience and standing up for what's right can lead to a satisfying resolution. And while the drama might have subsided, the memories of that wild ride will remain a story I'll be telling for years to come. I'm 26 years old, and I decided to open my own business this year. Moving forward in this post, I should point out that I am from a small town, 1,000 people, in the rural Midwest. Because of this, everyone has some sort of connection with someone. We went to one of the liquor stores in the closest city 30-ish minutes away. Small city, 8,000 people. When we were grabbing some alcohol for a party, I was looking at the prices and saw how insane the prices were. For a 6-pack of a local beer, we were charged $15. I was thinking about this, and figured that I could probably make a bank opening a liquor store. Back in February, I was furious about my shitty job, and thinking out loud how cool it would be to own my own business to a friend. My friend's mom happened to be the president of the local bank. He told me, "Hey, with the pandemic, the bank has been struggling to find customers to give out loans. Right now, the bank is giving loans for cheap." A couple of weeks later, I went in and met with my friend's mom and pitched my idea with the research I had done on alcohol prices, potential demand, and estimated income. I got the loan at a fantastic interest rate. I bought a building, which happened to be the former bank, and hired my dad to help me renovate the building. My dad is a general contractor, and he gave me an excellent quote on materials and labor. After working everything out with the distributors, getting the proper licenses, and getting my paperwork I needed for the government, I was ready to open my liquor store in May. I had started taking out ads in the local newspaper advertising my store and my prices. When I was in talks with my distributors, I learned, even with inflation and everything else, the liquor stores in the city had like an 80% markup. I talked to a local business owner, and he suggested that I have around a 35% to 40% markup. Because of this, I was significantly cheaper than the closest liquor store, and had a much wider selection than the gas stations and small local stores nearby. My hometown is near a national forest. As such, we have a ton of people who come up for weekends for recreational activates year-round. My first week, the week before Memorial Weekend after opening, I had made a $4,000 profit. It was great being my own boss. If someone was rude to me or my girlfriend, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can do your business elsewhere." If someone tells my GF, "Go back to China, you chink bitch," they can pay me 15% more at the register. Did the gang and I run out of alcohol? Time to grab my keys, not car keys, the store keys. My apartment is like 2 blocks away, and go to the store. That's not to say that it wasn't difficult running my own business, especially that my only employee was my GF, and we were both working 6 or 7 10 to 12-hour days a week. I was both manager, accountant, and cashier, but hell, it's so much nicer knowing I can tell someone to pound sand for being a prick. Couple of weeks after Memorial Day, some old guy walks into my store a couple of minutes after I opened. He seemed friendly enough, but eventually he offered to buy my store. I'm not going to say the amount, but it wouldn't have even covered my principal on the loan. I rejected the proposal outright and refused to negotiate the sum higher. He walked out of my store saying, "Welp, you'll be sorry you rejected that offer." The next month, a guy walked into my store and asked if I was the owner. After saying yes, I was informed that my business was being sued by this random guy they first never heard of for libel. After he left, I was freaking out, and I decided that I was going to close early. When I got home, I Googled the guy, and soon saw a picture of the guy that tried to buy my store. It turns out that that is the guy who owns both of the liquor stores in the nearby city. It also just so happens that he is on city council. With a little bit of further digging, I learned that this city has an ordinance that reads, "Any business institution that does not fulfill the definition of a restaurant, tavern, or liquor dispensary will be excluded from obtaining a license for the sale of alcohol." Later I discovered that the same guy happens to be the head of the board which approves liquor licenses. I love small-town corruption. Either way, I had a major issue. My maternal uncle happens to be a lawyer in a neighboring state. I decided to call him and try to get some legal advice. I talked to him and read the documents that I had been handed served over the phone, and the research I had done. After receiving all of the information I had read off, I was expecting to get some sort of advice, but instead heard, "Hang on, I got to make a call." And he hung up. I'm freaking out. I was actually about to post my first post to our legal advice. I'll be honest, I just wanted someone to tell me it was going to be okay, and I didn't need to crawl to this guy on my hands and knees. As I was writing the title, my uncle called back. "Hey, Op, I just got off the phone with my partner. He agreed that we can take your case pro bono. If you would like to accept, we can discuss at my office tomorrow at 1 o'clock. This is how I learned that my uncle is on the bar in 3 states. So we meet and we discuss the case. It turns out that the guy filed the libel suit against my business based on the ads I took out in the local newspapers. He claimed that my ads were targeted to damage his and his business's reputation. There were a few other things that I had no idea what was being referenced, but Uncle assured me that we would win this case no problem. 3 weeks later, the case is dismissed, but after my uncle says, people like that piece of work will likely try to file another suit against you. If that happens, call me and promise I will help. The next day I get served again, but this time I am the defendant. Not my store, me. I swear to God I look at the documentation and the only thing that changed was instead of my business's name, mine is listed as the defendant. Same thing happens, 4 weeks later the case is dismissed. Over the next 3 months I was sued just as many times. Before the 5th case's hearing we had a settlement meeting. My uncle, the judge, the guy suing me, his lawyer, a bailiff, and I were sitting in this room. Judge says, "You two have been in court 4 times already. Is there any way we could come to an agreement that'll stop this cycle of faulty litigation?" The guy's lawyer says they have an offer, and hand it to my uncle, who then hands it to me. It essentially read that he'll stop all litigation if I sell my business for about 30% of remaining loan principal. I outright rejected the offer and made a counteroffer. I said, "If you drop this case, I won't sue your ass for harassment." He busts out laughing. "Sue me with what money? The legal fees alone ought to have drained you. You should be happy I chose to extend this offer and not sue your ass into bankruptcy and buy that shithole from the bank when they foreclose on your dumbass." The judge, the bailiff, and the guy's own lawyer were all looking at him aghast for saying the silent part out loud about the real reason I was getting sued. My uncle straight out said to him, "Oh, I am sorry. Apparently you were never told. I have taken all of my nephew's cases pro bono. The only money he has spent on your litigations is gas. And bluntly, sir, I think your outburst has just insured a suit against you." After that we just left, and I was then informed a few days later the litigation was dropped. Right now my uncle and I are talking about the future suit against the guy. I want to sue the guy for a very high amount to try and get press attention on this guy and his sketchy actions. Although my uncle warned me that we'll need to be careful, because if we set the damages too high, it'll look like we're just being vindictive. This suit won't be pro bono, but after getting sued 5 times for free essentially, I am not going to complain. Looking back on this, I am so thankful that my friends and family supported the entire way, especially my uncle. Without my uncle, I would have absolutely lost my business. This whole thing happened when my family and I were at Disney World a couple of years ago. We'd checked into this nice resort, but for dinner that night, we had reservations at a different hotel. It was a casual buffet place, nothing too fancy, so I threw on a pair of shorts and this t-shirt with a unicorn that said, "Everything sucks" in glittery writing. Seemed harmless enough for a buffet dinner. We got there, got seated, and started digging into our food. It was good, you know, standard buffet stuff. I was halfway through my plate when I decided I wanted seconds. So I got up and headed over to the food area when out of nowhere this lady steps right in front of me. She looked like she was in her 40s, all dressed up like she was going to a gala or something, and she starts going off on me about my shirt. "Lady, excuse me, young lady." I turned around, trying to figure out what her problem was. "Me. Hi, lady. Do you think it's appropriate to wear that shirt in front of children?" I looked around, and sure enough, her kids were sitting at a table nearby, munching on their food like nothing was wrong. Me. "Oh, what's wrong with my shirt?" "Lady, it's obscene, it's offensive. My children are distressed because of you." I glanced down at my shirt again, genuinely puzzled because it was just a unicorn with some funny text. Me. Sorry, but I don't see how it's offensive. It's just a unicorn. Lady, it says everything sucks, that's not appropriate for children. Me. Well, it's not like I meant to offend anyone. And besides, I'm just here to eat dinner. Lady, you should take that shirt off right now or at least cover it up. I started getting annoyed at this point. Like, seriously annoyed. Me. Lady, I'm not taking my shirt off in the middle of a restaurant, and I definitely don't have another one with me. Lady, then go buy one. Get something more family-friendly, like a Disney shirt. My kids love Disney princesses and Minnie Mouse. Me. Sorry, but I'm not here to cater to your kids, and the restaurant didn't say anything about my shirt when we came in. Lady. Well, you should have some decency. I decided to just walk away at that point because arguing with her was getting me nowhere. So I grabbed a plate and headed back to my table, leaving her still ranting behind me. Lady, you can't just ignore me. How dare you? My family was looking at me like, what just happened? I shrugged and went back to eating, trying to forget about the crazy lady. She kept yelling for a few more minutes before finally giving up. My mom leaned over to me, shaking her head. Mom, some people just have nothing better to do than cause drama. Dad chimed in with a chuckle. Dad, at least your shirt made an impression. I rolled my eyes and finished my dinner in peace after that. But seriously, who tries to start a fight over a unicorn shirt in Disney World? Talk about entitled. Here's the story of what happened at McDonald's on my birthday. It's wild and definitely unforgettable. So, my parents took us to McDonald's because my brother wanted a Happy Meal. We got in line, ordered, and everything seemed normal. But then, out of nowhere, this entitled mom, Karen, showed up. Now, this McDonald's drive-thru has 2 lanes that merge into one before you get to the windows. My mom and Karen ended up reaching the merge point at the same time. My mom, being responsible and not distracted by her phone like Karen, let her go first. But as Karen passed by, my mom rolled down her window. Mom, watch where you're going. Stop playing on your phone. Well, that set Karen off like a firecracker. She started yelling back at my mom, calling her names and making all sorts of wild accusations. She even brought up her dead mother, which was just bizarre because no one had mentioned anything about her mother. Karen went on to accuse my mom of slandering her and harassing her. She called my parents monsters for using bad language in front of us, even though she was the one yelling curse words with her young daughter in the car, who wasn't even properly restrained. The cars behind us were trying to maneuver around this mess, so we were stuck there until Karen decided to move. She had already gotten her food, but she refused to leave. Instead, she called the police and accused us of harassment, which was ridiculous because she was the one causing the scene. But wait, it gets worse. Karen then directed a racial slur at my dad, a really awful one. My dad is Arabic, not black, and this woman had the audacity to use such a derogatory term. There were 3 black guys nearby who overheard this, and they were understandably furious. They approached Karen's car, and things escalated quickly. One of the guys punched her car, and another spat in her face. Honestly, she deserved it for using such hateful language. Throughout all this, Karen kept repeating the racial slur and screaming at these guys who had nothing to do with our situation. She continued to berate us for supposedly exposing her child to bad language, as if that justified her behavior. Meanwhile, the situation was attracting more attention, and eventually, the police arrived. The cops split up. One went to talk to Karen, and the other came to speak with my mom. My mom calmly explained what had happened, pointing out that Karen was on her phone while driving and her child was not properly restrained. Meanwhile, Karen was still shouting about how she was going to prove her innocence with security camera footage. In the end, the police understood the situation. They let us go, and as we were leaving, we saw another female officer arriving at the scene. Karen was probably going to get in serious trouble, not just for her behavior, but also for being on her phone while driving and endangering her child. I gotta say, that McDonald's sweet tea tasted extra sweet after all that drama. It was definitely a birthday I won't forget. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences and opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.